What's going on, folks? And we're back. And before we went to break, joining us was Mr. Richard Ryan. For some reason, I forgot your name. I don't know why. I don't know how that's even possible. I was talking to you earlier about the last time you were on my show, and I was shooting that 50 cal. And for a lot of people, they assume that I shoot 50 cal on a regular basis. But that was actually the very first time that I've ever gotten a chance to shoot a 50 cal. And I got to say, it was a rather erotic.
Yeah, well,
in the most non-sexual way possible.
Yeah. Why don't you shoot one on a more regular basis?
Well, there's this little thing called money, and then you got to figure out a way to get that, and then No, I mean, the funny thing is, it's for whatever reason, as cool as I think the 50 cal is, my mind has kind of developed this weird wall around the notion of actually owning one. Like I don't even I almost think like I'm not allowed to in many ways. I really don't quite understand why that is the case. But yet here you were in California, a place where you absolutely can't own one, and here you are, yet you have one. And I'm in Texas where I could own pretty much anything I want, and yet in my mind I feel like, wait, is it legal for me to own a 50 cal?
Yeah, no, I know a bunch of guys with tanks in Texas, so you'd be fine. You'd fit in well. No, it's funny because that is one of those things where you see stuff on the internet and YouTube and things along those lines. You see maybe someone like me shooting a 50 all the time. And it's like, oh, it seems common, or it may not seem common to you. But the thing that people don't really think about is the costs associated with them. You can get, whenever the California ban happened in 2004, I believe, there was like a lot of manufacturers out there that were just racing the clock, trying to get as many different types of variations on different platforms or standalone rifles. Like they were building them for AR platforms. They have I believe it was Ferret or somebody along those lines had those uppers, and they weren't necessarily of the greatest quality, but generally with the more iconic ones out there, like Barrett with the M82A1 and the M107A1, those are like the Rolls Royces of the 50 cals, and they're not cheap. You can spend anywhere from like $10,000 to $14,000 outfitting one, and so that's probably the biggest barrier for most people. It's not necessarily that they can't own them; it's because of
cost. It's prohibitively expensive. Yeah. So like what kind of like from an optics standpoint, I don't see myself just running a little red dot on my 50 cal or anything like that. But you have to factor that cost in too, because you can't just throw anything on that thing.
Yeah, it's funny because I've actually thought about putting a red dot on there just to joke around about it, because I probably could get away with it for a lot of the stuff that I do shoot, but it really depends on what applications you're going to do it for. If you're going to be doing a lot of long range shooting and everything, man, you could drop some money on glass. Generally, I know a lot of guys that'll outfit their ARs and their different rifle systems, and they'll spend just as much money on glass. So hopefully you're not spending that much money if you buy a Barrett on your optics. But I don't know, like if you were wanting to do something along the lines of like long range, like trying to shoot out like a mile and try to. I
don't know how many places right now in Texas that I can go where I can shoot out to a mile. And there's also that restriction. What is literally the safest distance that you can actually shoot a Barrett?
Safest?
Yeah.
Like distance?
Yeah.
I think their effective range is like I want to say like a mile and a half, like far as ballistic solutions and stuff like that. I just geek out on that, right? So if I have an opportunity, like Texas is one of those few places where I know a lot of guys with ranches out there that will go out and we'll take the 338 Lapua and the 50 cal out, and we will just start running ballistics formulas and trying to figure it out. It's so much fun. And you don't really get a chance to do that with 308 or 223 nearly as much as you can with 50 BMG or 338 Lapua. So I don't know. When we should have took you out to the Mojave whenever we did that, because the guys from Tracking Point, we did some 50 BMG stuff and some 338 stuff out there, and you got. It's so much fun because you have to start, your different winds and stuff like that. If there's a mile and a half worth of wind that you have to compensate for. So
I think people start like I talk to a lot of people who don't really know much about shooting, and it's amazing. You can see their eyes kind of go like, really? When you explain them, because they think you just take an optic, you throw it on there, and then you just point and you shoot.
Yeah.
And you start explaining to them, no, you have to account for like the curvature of the earth, the wind blowing this way, the bullet drift, the drop, and all this stuff. And then the eyes kind of glaze up.
Temperature, all of that. Yeah.
And in many ways, it actually kind of filters out. It kind of filters out the people who even wouldn't even think about getting into it, because it's like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I don't just put an optic, point, and shoot? So you mean to tell me I have to like think and figure out math and stuff?
It's funny. It's funny that you say that, because I was very much the same way, where I would go out and I would try to just put. Back in the day, I'd try to put dope on my scope, and I would just try to compensate. And then I'd as soon as I'd hit my target, I'd be like, okay, then that's what. Yeah. And then I went to the U.S. Optics Academy, which Tyler Hughes, he also is an instructor for Barrett, their courses and everything. And we started going through the different ballistic formulas and everything, and that completely was like, oh my God, wait, there's math.
Yeah.
Wait, and
I went to law school to get away from math.
Well, it's weird, because I despise math in school.
Yeah.
But with the first time I went through, it was all classwork the first day. But then the next day I went out there and we sighted in our rifles at 100 yards, and then we just started putting in the ballistics formula and compensating a little bit for the wind. And very first shot, 600 yards, ping. I was like, no, that's so cool. But when you start shooting 50 BMG and 338, you can really power through a lot of that wind on those somewhat. I say shorter distances, but it's a long distance for maybe like a 308 or something like that. But for 50 BMG or a 338, you can kind of cut through it and just push through. But
I think for a lot of people too, like you said, you didn't care for math when you were in school. I think a lot of it too stems from the fact that, when you have something to apply it to in the real world, it makes it a lot more enjoyable, especially versus kind of the theoretical components that are involved with sitting in a classroom and learning about it in school and things of that nature. I know I was like that in law school. You give me a case that's theoretical, I'm like, bore. But then it's like a real world scenario, then I'm just like, all right, let's do this, right? But it can be overwhelming. But I think what I've learned in my beginning stages of shooting long distance is understanding that it is a journey and there really isn't an end, unless you're talking about just hitting a certain mile marker. But then even after that, there's going to be something else you want to do. And for me, I'm starting to understand just enjoying the journey more than anything.
Yeah, same here. I feel like whenever I first got into firearms as a kid and everything, when it was hunting this and then just going out shooting with family and stuff along those lines, it was completely different. And as I got older, 3-gun started coming around. I was introduced to long range shooting and then like precision shooting. And there's so many different disciplines with so many different applications and techniques. It just completely blows my mind, like things that I would have never have thought about, far as ballistic formulas and trying to figure out the humidity and the Coriolis effect and everything. It's like I would never have.
Fancy word.
Yeah, right. Who is that guy? Why is he making me learn math?
We got about 30 seconds left, but I just want to point out one thing too. Shooting a 50 cal offhand isn't as incredibly difficult as it looks when you see it.
Not with the Barrett.
Yes. Not with the Barrett.
Yeah, because you've got recoil compensation coming from all kinds of different angles with the Barrett.
It does. And so, but I like to let people think that is the case, so that when you see it in the video, you're like, man, that guy looks awesome. And I'm just
so jacked.
But no, man, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, man. I hope you come and join us again. You have a good one, bro.
All right, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And coming up on Seeing Live is Maj Toure, who's here to talk about the elections and some Black Gun Matters issues, and we'll be back in 5.